So today we are going to be making brandy snaps or ginger snaps. Okay, so this is hopefully what they'll turn out like. So let's start with preparing our baking trays. All right, so I've got 2 baking trays, okay, and I've got some parchment paper. Now, like the Viennese whirls, what we need to do is we need to just grease them first of all. Now I've got some spray grease, all right, butter or whatever. I'm just going to spray a little bit on, so that's going to stick on there. If you don't have any spray, just use a little bit of butter, just to create a little bit of stickiness, so that when we put our greaseproof paper on, it's going to remain stuck down. Okay, so if that's all ready, we can then put that to one side. All right, so that's all ready. Okay. The first thing we are going to do, okay, is we're going to put the oven on. So you need to make sure that your oven is on 180 degrees centigrade, gas mark 4, okay? So the oven needs to warm up there, okay? Right, so hopefully you've measured your butter. So you should have 55 grams of butter, and you should have the same quantity as sugar. Now you can use Carter sugar, Demerara sugar, brown sugar. This is left over from Christmas, so I've actually got some dark brown sugar, okay? Obviously the different types of sugars are going to create a different colour because of the caramelisation and the sugar molecules, okay? But as long as it's the same quantity as butter as sugar, okay? So that's all ready. So I'm going to put the butter into the saucepan and the sugar, okay? Now this is the bit that it might be worth placing your saucepan onto some weighing scales. You can see that. Because, I can't get the camera right. This way. There we go. All right. Because you'll see when we actually pour in the golden syrup, if we were to do it by tablespoons, you're going to get some that's going to be stuck onto it. Okay. So let's get the camera angle right. Obviously there's a shadow there, but we'll see how we go. So into here I need to put in the same quantity as golden syrup, okay, so 55 grams. If you can't do this with a saucepan, why don't you put a container onto your weighing scales and then measure it that way, okay? So 55 grams of golden syrup. It's gonna be really gloopy. Okay, so remember, you can only put in a bit at a time. You can't take it out once it's in. So take it slowly. You want 55 grams. Almost there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That'll do. Oh, it's dripped on my hand. Oh dear. I'm going to wash my hands. Oh look, I've got 57 grams, but a couple of grams. Wash my hands. Well, hopefully you've all wash your hands and have got your aprons on. Okay, let me get my tea towel. Right, so I've got the sugar, I've got my butter, and I've got my golden syrup in the saucepan. And what I'm now going to do is I'm now going to heat them over the hob. All right, so I'll pause this and then take it over to the hob. Okay, so turn the heating on. We want to keep stirring this. We're going to heat it gently, so I'm not going to put it up high first of all, because obviously we've got a high content of fat here, sugar. So we've got the fat and the sugar, and obviously it's going to caramelise. So we're going to gently heat it until the butter has completely melted and the sugar has dissolved. So this might take between 10 and 15 minutes. Okay, so heat it gently, don't rush it. Okay. We're actually going to be forming the sugar crystals. Now, think about sugar and sucrose, okay, which is what we've got here, sugar. What happens is, as it's heated up, the sucrose, which is the sugar molecules, when they're heated, are going to be changing colour, changing flavour, changing texture of the sugar as it turns into caramel. So it's just caramelisation, okay? So like I said before, depends on which sugar you use, it's going to create a different type of caramel. And the colour, my brandy snaps, or, ginger snaps might look very different to yours in colour because of the different sugar that I'm using. Okay, so we'll see as it's dissolving, as the butter's melting and the sugar's dissolving, you know, this is the sucrose molecules breaking up. Okay, now we don't want the mixture to boil because we don't want to form crystals. Once you've formed those sugar crystals, it's gone too far, okay? So you need to make sure that we're really controlling the temperature and the heat. Okay, so to check when the sugar has dissolved, we're gonna, as we stir it, you should be able to, as you scrape the spoon along the bottom, you should be able to hopefully not hear any gritty granules. At the moment, you can hear the gritty granules. Eventually, you won't hear or feel those granules. All right, so the sugar's dissolved, so I'm just going to turn it down a little bit because I want the butter now to melt and incorporate within this sugar. Okay, I'm going to pause there and we'll check in a minute. So as you can see, the butter has melted, the sugar has fully dissolved, and I'm going to stop there. I'm going to take it off the heat. I want to let it to cool just for a couple of minutes. All right, so take it off the heat, and then just leave it over there, leave it for a few minutes. Okay, I'm going to get my other things ready for now. Okay, so I'm just going to stir it because obviously stirring off the heat will help it to cool down. Okay, you can see it starts to thicken as it cools. Right, so I've got my flour here, plain flour, and I've got my ground ginger. Now I want half a teaspoon of ginger, but I quite like the flavour of ginger, so I'm going to put in just a little bit more. That's a bit too much. I'm going to put in a little bit more, just because I'd like a little bit more ginger flavour. So they're going to be more ginger snaps than brandy snaps. They're called brandy snaps, but they don't actually contain brandy. Okay, so there's my ginger and my flour, and I'm now going to sieve the flour in. Obviously, we normally sieve to add air into it, but for this I want to just make sure that any lumps are removed from the flour and the ginger. Okay, so that's that. What I'm now going to do is I'm now going to be stirring it in. Okay, so I now want to, it's not essential if you don't have any, but some lemon juice. Now you want to pour in half a teaspoon of lemon juice. So not too much, can you see that there? So just a little splash of lemon juice. And give it a stir. Okay. So you've now got what looks like a really lovely caramel with a lovely smell of ginger. Okay. So clear my area. And bring over my first baking tray. Now, these only take sort of 10 minutes to cook, but then once they're cooked, we need to move quite quickly so that we can mould them. So for that reason, I'm only going to do 2 at a time, okay? And you'll see why in a minute. So I'm going to put a dollop of the sugary mixture. So there's 1 teaspoon. Now, I reckon I'm going to put 1.5 teaspoons now because I don't know how big, because they're obviously going to be, as they're heated up further, they're going to spread and they're going to be quite thin. Okay, so you want space, just put 2 on your baking sheet first. There we go. All right. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to put them in the oven for 10 to 15 minutes. And what we want to do is you'll see they'll spread out and they'll look lacy and they'll be all bubbly on top. All right, so I'm going to go and put them in the oven and then we'll see how they come out. Right, whilst you're waiting, you're going to want to prepare for when they come out. Now you're going to want to have something that you're going to be able to wrap them round to before they set. So I've got several things here. I've got a wooden handle of a spoon. I've got a pestle and mortar, so it's the pestle that you pound thing. So that's sort of quite a thick sort of cylinder there. But a wooden spoon should be fine. Now, to prevent them sticking, you just want to coat them with a little bit of oil. So I've got a little bit of oil on my hand. I'm just going to coat the outside of them. Now you might want, I'm going to make like a basket as well. So I'm just going to oil the outside of a little bowl. Okay, so just so it'll be able to be slipped on and off. Okay, so that's all ready to use. So I have mine in the oven for 10 minutes. You can see how lovely and brown, and they've got bubbles. It's perfect. Take it out of the oven. Remember, it's sugar. It's going to be extremely hot. Now, at the moment, they're really soft, okay, but they will harden quite quickly. Do not burn yourself. If they harden too quickly, then you can always put them back in the oven again to be more pliable, to soften. At the moment, that's just all right. So I'm going to carefully use a fish slice if need be to gently lift. Do not burn your fingers. Okay, so I'm now going to wrap it around my chosen utensil. Now, it's starting to harden already, so I'm going to try and work quite quickly. There we go. Okay, now the other one might have hardened already. So work quickly. I'm going to do this one around here. So you can create different shapes. That's quite a nice one actually there. Hold it together at the bottom. Okay. And then slide it off. And I can now put them on a cooling rack to hold completely. There you go. So there's two. So now you can sort of see how that works, and just keep going until all the rest of the mixture's done. So I'm going to put two more in. So that was like 1.5 teaspoons, and you can sort of see how much mixture it made. All right, so I'm going to put it in, keep going until all your mixture's done. Okay, so I've done these ones. I've noticed I'm going to do for 8 minutes because I've noticed that the other ones perhaps I've done for a bit too long. So I just let it a couple of minutes just to cool a little bit, and you'll see that the other ones, so I left them for 10 minutes, are slightly more dark. They're not burnt, but I just thought I'd see, and you want the lacy effect, you want the holes. Okay, so just leave it a few minutes while it comes together. And this time I'm gonna put it on top of the bowl to create like a basket. Okay. And while I'm waiting, I think I prefer, because they're quite brittle now, I think I prefer the sort of the diameter here of this one as opposed to the bigger one. So I'm not going to use that anymore. I'm always going to be using the wooden spoon. Okay, so let me see how this works. So I might use my fingers just to start it off if I can. Yep. Remember, it's hot, but if your the ginger snap sticks to your baking paper, it might be because it's baking paper. You might need to just to grease. I know it sounds a bit bizarre. Grease your baking paper a little bit to prevent it from sticking. This is parchment paper, so it's less likely to stick. Oh, these ones are a bit more difficult to manoeuvre. I don't want to break them. Okay, they're starting to harden. Oh, they're hot. I want to break it. Okay, I'm just going to force it down. Okay, and I'm going to put this one around the handle. There we go. Oh. And then curl it round and join it at the bottom. I'm going to overlap at the bottom so it sort of sticks together. Can you see? keep working it. And move that. It's a cooling rack. And when it's set, got a nice basket. You can put ice cream in that. Okay, allow that to cool. And then put some more in. So I've changed mine to about 8 minutes, but you can gauge yours. Depends on your ovens really. All right, so keep going. So all that needs to do now is pipe. So I've whisked some double creamer, so it's nice and thick. You could add a bit of flavouring. You could add a bit of vanilla essence. You could add a little bit of orange essence. You could add whatever flavour you want really to it. If not, I've just got some double cream. Now, if you haven't got any more piping bags, I've actually run out. I've just got a normal plastic bag, Ziploc bag here. I'm just going to cut the corner off to create my own piping bag. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to fill from one end, fill from the other, and present. Okay, now you can see this one's perhaps a bit too thin, this one. This one started to harden quite quickly, so it's going to be hard to do. So I'm just going to put a little bit of cream on either end, just to make it look as if it's filled. Okay. Got to be careful with them because they're quite brittle. Now if you want to, before filling them, you could have dipped one end in melted chocolate and let it set. However, I think, to be honest, they're quite sweet anyway. Chocolate on one end might be perhaps a bit too much. Here's my first ones, which are slightly darker. Perfect amount. And you can see that perhaps this one is a bit too large. It's going to have a lot of cream in this one. Someone's going to get the lucky one. Okay. Now, you can see that the baskets that I've made, what you can do is you can fill them with ice cream. So I've got some Tutti Frutti ice cream here, which I love. And if you just heat up the bottom of the ice cream scoop a little bit, when you come to scoop it into your, it's not soft ice cream, that's the thing, it can't make it into a nice ball. It's a bit better. You can create a nice presented dessert, and you can top it with a little bit of fruit. What else could you put? I haven't got any vanilla ice cream, but think about what else you might want to put in that. Okay, there you go. I'm only going to put one with ice cream in, and there you go. Some ginger or brandy snaps. Nice presentation. So caramelisation and heating, obviously, over a saucepan to get the desired effect. Enjoy. Don't forget to send me some photographs of what you produce.